Question on the sore throat video that you put up.
Mhm.
You mentioned Ravensara as a strengthening for the body.
Yeah,
Is it possible to put too much Ravensara on?
you'd have to work pretty hard.
Okay.
Um,
I've been putting
uh,
it on my wrist, spleen, solar,
yeah,
navel, and navel minor.
I'm not telling you to do this, but I've put up to 30 mils on, which is a whole ounce on
Okay,
my back.
that's more than what I got, but
Yeah,
okay.
so it's one of the ones, and the only reason that I did that, because I mean that's like a crazy amount. Like I
Yeah.
do not suggest that with anything. But
Okay.
I have these friends who are like long time in the medical aromatherapy circles, and like back in the mid to late 80s,
Mm-hmm.
when people were getting diagnosed with HIV,
Yeah.
um, they, nobody, there was no like great treatment.
Yeah.
And so some of the French physicians who, a lot of the French physicians, or let me say that differently, a lot of the medical aromatherapists in France are usually physicians.
Right.
And so one of the things that they were doing was they were taking either Ravensara or
Mhm.
Bay Laurel, and they
Okay.
were putting literally an ounce on the person's back, and they
Okay.
would measure the viral load before, and then they would go through and they would do the treatment, and within 24 hours the viral load would drop down to almost zero.
Okay.
And so, and these were usually people who were in crisis, like the viral loads were really super high.
Yeah.
And so the thing is you have different components, and you have like the virus, and then talking about that situation, you have the virus, and then you have your body's ability to like fight off the virus.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this particular case, it helps to offset the virus and strengthen the body, and it really helps the body be able to fight the virus very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
significantly.
Yeah.
And they're antiviral, and a
Yeah.
lot of times it's not that it's like the substance is necessarily targeting the virus, but it's targeting your body, that then your body targets the virus, right?
Yeah.
And so there's that component, and then the other component is, this happens a lot with viruses, bacterias, even allergies, is the virus might only be there for like a couple of days,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes 12 hours to maybe 48 hours, sometimes a little longer. I'm talking about like colds and flus and things.
Right.
um, and the virus has gone, but I was making this like kind of explanation to somebody else yesterday, and it's like, but they're like old school rock and roll. Like they were there for a while, but they trashed the hotel room. Like, they threw
They sure as
TVs,
hell did.
they throw TVs
Yeah.
out the window, they squirt ketchup on the walls, they cut
Yeah.
up the sheets, it just
Yeah.
wreaked havoc. And
Yeah.
so a lot of times what happens is, there's the viral component, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's the trashed hotel room, so to speak.
Right.
And it's just it makes your body like just go into these like weird things. Like viruses kind of like turn these like little keys in your body and make your body function better so that it can thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, something like Ravensara is really good for that, because
Mm-hmm.
it helps to strengthen the body. It's antiviral, it strengthens the immune system, it increases your energy levels a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not like drinking a cup of coffee, but it just makes you feel kind of stronger. You know what I
Well,
mean?
I like it because it feels to me like I'm rebuilding the batteries in the basement,
Yeah, it's
which I
exactly,
need.
great way to say it. And even like in terms of medical aromatherapy, like you could say, like there's some things, like if you boiled it down to like symptom oriented treatments, there's
Mm-hmm.
some things that it's kind of good for. But one of the things that where really super shines is, we used to refer to it as like an environmental treatment, and not like the outside environment, but the environment of the body. It just
Okay.
starts making everything function better, cleans things up, and makes the immune system function better, gives your body more energy. It helps to detoxify the body a little bit. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
just does like a lot of good house cleaning. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
basically the maid service that comes in after that trashed hotel room. And
Yeah.
so you can go kind of big dosages. And, even in the old days when I was seeing a lot of patients one-on-one in person,
Mm-hmm.
I was doing long, long days with no breaks and getting getting towards the end of the day, as I got older, I was like, "Ugh, I don't have the juice in my legs like I used to. Like, you know, I
Yeah.
used to be able to just power through it. And like as I was getting older, I was like, I might have to shorten my day a little bit. But so what I
10
would
4, good
do,
buddy.
which I know, I know. But like about like 3 or 4 o'clock, I would take like 4 or 5 drops of Ravensara, and I felt like the old days. Like, you know, I
Okay.
could fire through the rest of the day. And
Yeah.
the end of the day, I was tired, but I wasn't like tired.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so you could use it for any kind of variation of that. And one of the
Okay.
things that I used to do actually with whiplash patients is, you know, we were when we were doing that study and that kind of, it was a study, but it wasn't so much a study for me. It was an ER doctor was doing something for UC San
Hmm.
Francisco, and
Okay.
we were seeing patients at different stages. We were seeing patients that were had just been in an accident, like either, you know, within a few days or a week or 2 weeks. And then we were seeing people a couple years out. And then I was seeing patients that were 5 or 10 years out from a whiplash that it just didn't
Yeah.
heal. And
Hmm.
the group that we were targeting for the fresh whiplashes, they would go through these like stages, and within like a few weeks, like I'd say maybe about 3 weeks or so, their energy level would start to drop, and kind of substantially. You know, it's
Yeah.
just like,
Long-term pain and agony.
yeah, long-term pain. They had a bunch of inflammation. They weren't sleeping good. You know, the adrenaline was wearing off. They were starting to deal with insurance. They were just, they were having to make adjustments in their life
Yeah.
because of the injury. And so, you know, we looked at several different approaches, and I started doing this combination of Ravensara, thyme linalool with
Hmm.
just a hint of oregano. And I mean, every one of them would just like snap out of it. And,
Hmm.
you know, a lot of them would just refer to it as that juice. I need more of that juice, you know. And I was mixing it in olive oil so they could just like, you know, kind of like shoot it.
Hmm.
And they loved it, but they would say that like if they took it, they could function in the day. And you know, it was just like a gentle way to strengthen the body, help the body's immune system get strong, help the body kind of, you know, be able to fight off the inflammation and all those
Hmm.
things. And so any variation of that, I mean,
Yeah.
just Ravensara by itself is a very potent tool for anything immune slash inflammatory oriented, and the fatigue that can go along with it. And
Hmm.
so you can go a little crazy with it. Like I'd put several drops on like your wrist, and I'd
Hmm.
even be throwing back like 3, 4 drops at a time in water, and
Oh,
you know, once or
okay.
twice a day. It will definitely help get your energy levels back.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about using, I have red thyme and Moroccan thyme in hand.
Go Moroccan time.
Moroccan.
Yeah, and the reason being, it's fortifying, it helps to regulate the thymus, and it's very anti-inflammatory. And
Okay.
you know, one of the issues with getting sick is there is kind of an inflammation that's in the body. And
Yeah.
so in the more earlier stages, I usually use like the red or the white thyme or something like
Hmm.
that. But after it's gone on, or there's fatigue afterwards, or the infection's been really chronic and long term, I
Hmm.
go Moroccan.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And one more, you said any question goes. You said you had been talking to GMCKS about the effect of solar eruptions on um,
Mhm. Yeah.
viral mutations. How about far side eruptions, not necessarily eruptions pointed at the earth?
He said that you know, we were going back and forth, and I brought it to his attention, and then he went in depth, and we
Hmm.
were looking at not just like esoteric like principles, but we were
Right.
actually looking at like the science of some of this stuff.
Yep.
And so we were going deep in some of the science, and science said exactly what he said. Um, you know, it causes mutations in viruses and bacterias, and then the
Hmm.
RNA of, you know, people, but also animals, you know, whatever it is, it's just
Yep.
it hits the RNA.
Yeah.
And when it's not being like when the eruption happens and it disperses energy and it's not really directed at the Earth, it still has an impact. You know, it has an impact on some of the space weather and things like that. But the more that it gets directed at us, the worse the effect. And there's been at least one, if not two, recently that was a direct hit on Earth. I know one for sure, and one I was starting to follow it, and then I lost track of it, and I don't know if it hit, but
yeah, it's kind of a glancing blow, is what they said.
Yeah.
I used to build satellites of my previous job things, so I'm kind of familiar with some of what you're talking about. Yeah.
You know, I used to consult for a satellite company.
Oh, really?
A long time ago. Yeah.
Which one?
I'd have to look up their name.
Okay, I worked for Ford Aerospace.
It was a little tiny company.
Okay.
It was I mean, they brought me in because they had employees stealing information to create their own company. And it was government contracts, and it was like the FBI, and they couldn't figure out who it was. And,
oh boy.
Yeah.
I had to deal
But we
with
figured it out. Those people got arrested and did a little jail time. So
okay, there we go. Anyway, thanks.